Hello, Night Nation. I'm Trylko from the Sons of UCF, joined by Eric Lopez of the Black and Gold Banneret. Welcome to Around the Kingdom. Elo, hello to you.
Trace, hello. Coming up on the fastest UCF show, Gus Malzahn loves Arkansas. Concerned? UCF basketball, have they peaked? And then is baseball going to get anybody out? All that and much more we'll discuss on this edition of Around the Kingdom, the fastest UCF show around.
Well, before we get into all of that, let us welcome in the third member of our team, Adam Eaton from the Sons of UCF, who keeps an eye on the clock and keeps us on our toes. Adam, hello to you.
Greetings, gentlemen. I'm actually just glad this show didn't get rained out. A lot of things got rained down recently. I'm glad the weather cleared up so we can get this show in tonight. So I wish you both the best of luck.
All right, see you in a few. You mentioned it off the top, Elo. Gus Malzahn, he loves him some Arkansas. Did you catch his appearance on an Arkansas-based podcast, Coaches and the Mouth pod? Listen to Coach Malzahn, UCF head coach Gus Malzahn, and what he had to say about the Arkansas Razorback program.
My dream was to play for the Hogs.
Yeah.
And I walked on, and, man, that was a big deal. And so, you go to Auburn, it's a rival, and, I'm like a closet Hog fan. I root for them every other time that we don't play, and then we got to play them. And then, man, my friends, Fred, you find out who your friends are, I tell you that. And I had friends, we'd beat them, and they wouldn't talk to me for a month. And, man, it was really – but I am so glad that now I can just root for the Hogs and don't have to play them.
He's just so glad to be a closet Hogs fan. Really over the top, isn't it? I mean, it's how he feels, but it does feel a little unsettling if you're a UCF fan thinking that he might be here for the long haul.
Well, first of all, what a name for the pod. What's the name of the podcast again? Coaches and the Mouth?
Coaches and the Mouth.
So is he talking to the mouth? Is that the guy we were hearing laughing?
That may be the mouth. I listened to the full podcast, but it was that soundbite that jumped out at me. How he brightened up when he talked about Arkansas.
Now, in fairness, he was in Arkansas speaking at a coaching thing about a high school thing, which obviously he's from Arkansas. I can tell you this: since 2021, since Gus's arrival, I've been appearing on an Arkansas radio show every so often with Josh Bertuccini because they're so interested in Gus Malzahn. He has got a following in Arkansas that is. Since then, and there's a love affair. He almost went there a few years ago, but yeah, there's a unique relationship with Gus in Arkansas. And he did grow up a Razorback fan, and look, he was on an Arkansas show. But I'm not as bothered by it as you were. You were disturbed. You were ready to throw stuff at him, Trace.
I just think it's a little over the top. I mean, these guys change clothes and they change their affiliations and they're rooting for whatever program. I have not seen him one time as UCF head coach show as much enthusiasm for the Knights as he did in that 30-second clip.
I mean, he showed enthusiasm when he talks to you.
Not that much.
Not that much? All right, Trey. So obviously Gus has ties to Arkansas. It's got ties to the SEC. He loves high school football. He mentioned that in podcast interview. The big question is, are you now concerned? Do you believe Gus will retire at UCF or not finish his career at UCF?
I'm less convinced now after listening to that 17 minutes of Gus's love affair with the Arkansas Razorbacks that given the opportunity to go there, and which with Arkansas's struggles might be sooner rather than later, I think he might consider that and as a way to finish his career. You know how these coaches are. They have egos and they think they can win everywhere. I don't think you can win consistently at a high level in Arkansas, but I think Gus thinks that he can.
Here's why I disagree with you. If he wanted to be at Arkansas, he would have been at Arkansas by now. He had an opportunity to go to Arkansas a few years back. He decided to stay at Auburn. I think there are boosters that would want him there. But I'm not I don't think it's a lock that A, he would take the job, B, that he would be their first choice, which is the other aspect of it. A lot of this will depend on what kind of season he has this year. But I don't know, man. I don't have a problem with him liking Arkansas. He's from that state. He grew up there. He loves high school. I will say this. I don't think UCF will be his last coaching job. I actually, believe it or not, think his last coaching job is going to be in high school. I get a sense he's the type of guy that just wants to coach. And when the day comes, he's going to be somewhere in a high school helping somebody out in a coaching there on the side. I really do think that's how he's going to end his career.
The way you said that, though, that he had an opportunity to go but didn't, and in his tenure at UCF, he was going to call plays because he missed doing it. Now it's too much to be the CEO. He can't do that, and then he's back to calling plays. I think he can talk himself into the challenge of the SEC, and the pressure cooker is not as much in Fayetteville, Arkansas, as it was in Auburn, Alabama. Expectations lower. You're the one out there saying 9, 10 wins for UCF this year. If he does hit those lofty figures, he'll be coveted again. And Arkansas struggles. They may come a calling.
What's an easier place to win, in the UCF Big 12 or Arkansas in a deeper SEC? That's what he's going to have to make that decision. I will say this: whoever his agent is, that name is going to he's going to get floated to Arkansas, for nothing else, for leverage, to make sure he gets what he wants here, even if he wants to stay here. So I don't know. I'm not as convinced. I don't get a sense this is a Scott Frost Nebraska situation where I felt it was a done deal. It was only a matter of time he was going to end up in Nebraska. I'm not buying that with Gus in Arkansas
here. Do you need to hear the clip again? He speaks more lovingly of Arkansas than Arkansas's current head coach, but you're noted on there that
he did mention KJ Jefferson. He did mention the quarterback he's got here now, and Jefferson. He's excited. Just saying. What do you want him? You want him to talk to Arkansas people about UCF? What are you doing?
It might be nice.
Very good. Continue. You're up.
Black Friday ELO coming up. Is this one against Utah for the Knights more interesting, bigger, better than that old rivalry that UCF had with that team over in Tampa?
What rivalry are you talking about? I don't know what rivalry you're talking about in football. All I remember was we played a team in the state we constantly beat on a consistent basis. This is a big deal. Joe Klatt said that Utah, he thinks, would have a top 10 team going into the season. That's his pick to win the Big 12. They're going to be ranked. They're better than anything South Florida's ever done in the history of the program. This could be a monster game that could have national TV and exposure. Yeah, I think this is way better. Where are all those people that were like, oh, we need that USF game in Black Friday. That helps attendance and everything. Hello, this is Utah, big box office game. This should be an easy sellout. I don't really care for the other school that used to play there. It's an upgrade, my friend.
It's on paper an upgrade in terms of talent in the competition this year. It's interesting you're calling for a sellout now. It'd be interesting to see if those two teams are in a deciding game, control of the Big 12 at that point in the season. It could give some juice to that game, which, depending on the fate, the fortunes of the teams, it may be a game that, we saw with, previous post-Thanksgiving games. If the teams aren't good, if they're not in contention, maybe the interest wanes, the students are away. This one, I do think, has an opportunity to be a big crowd if there's a lot on the line.
Don't you think, let's say UCF is struggling. Let's say they're 6-5 or something like that, but Utah's in the top 10. You don't think that draws people still? Whereas if UCF was 4-8 against USF, nobody would go. But I think Utah has an appeal if Utah has the season that Joe Klatt thinks, with Cam Rising and Kyle Whittingham, their head coach. If they're in the mix for the Big 12 title game, I think that still draws interest, depending on how UCF season's going, even if they're not like 8-4, 9-3. You don't agree with that?
Admittedly, I don't know how well Utah is as a road draw, right? How many opportunities that they had to come to Florida and play a game. So I don't know what their fan base is going to do in terms of that game. I don't know that it moves a lot of people locally unless these teams are good. So if UCF is struggling, simply having a top 10, top 15 Utah coming to town, I don't think sells extra seats. So I'm not sure how they draw. Didn't they played Florida, right, recently in Gainesville?
A couple of years ago in the season opener.
Their road crowd was for that. Orlando, of course, remains a big vacation destination, so it does attract fans from visiting fan bases. It'd be curious to see how many people they bring to that game. But again, do you have maybe a top 25 showdown at that point in the season?
That would be the box office if UCF turns up. By the way, if I lived in Salt Lake, why wouldn't you come to Orlando? What else is there to do if you lived in Salt Lake? What are you going to do? Nah, I'd rather just stay in Salt Lake and, do whatever. Oh, wait, there's nothing to do in Salt Lake. Give me a break. Come down to Orlando.
You're channeling your inner UCF Mike and you're picking on opposing fan bases.
He's right. Are you going to Salt Lake when they play?
I would love. That's a. I've never been to Salt Lake. You're talking to the wrong guy. I went to Lubbock. I had a good time, so I'll go anywhere.
Well, I mean, you're a Lubbock guy. You're a Texas Tech guy. That made a lot of sense. All right. Well, the question is, by the time you get to Salt Lake or down the road football game next year, will there be a 2-minute warning added to the elements here? College Football Rules Committee is discussing adding a 2-minute warning for college football like you see in the National Football League. Trace, are you in favor of this?
I am in favor of it. In fact, and you and I have talked about this, the quality of the product in college football is often very poor. I think that's what makes it so exciting is that the defenses are bad. Just a lot of it is not quality. College football would be wise to adopt more of the successful things in the National Football League. So, yes, I'm in favor of that 2-minute warning, and I think it would be interesting to see how it affects strategy down the tail end of a game.
I don't disagree that they need to implement stuff from the NFL. I'm just not sure that the 2-minute warning is necessary here, especially because the clock stops after each first down. There's more no huddles. The last thing we want, I thought the whole purpose last year of keeping the clock moving is to speed up the game. If you add a 2-minute warning, that last 2 minutes might take an hour. Do you remember the old days in arena football? The first two, the whole game would go super fast. And then that last minute, they had like the 1-minute warning. It took forever. That's what I think would happen here. That 2-minute warning would take at least a half hour. Literally. I am against that unless you're willing to get rid of the clock stopping after a first down.
I think it needs to come in concert with other changes.
Okay.
These games are never 3 hours. The NFL is like clockwork on these 3-hour games. College football, you're in for 3.5 and more if it's on some network like CBS Sports Network. So they'd have to look at other rules changes and also the timing that would go with timeouts, TV timeouts. So they'd have to trade some. But I don't mind the 2-minute warning, but I'd like to see what else they consider it. I'm not sure that they adopt this in terms of this coming season.
I would hope not. I think you get more time. Again, there's got to be a trade-off. If you're going to do a 2-minute warning, then the clock can't stop on first downs in the last 2 minutes. Maybe you do that. Maybe some subtleness like that. I would be in for. Otherwise, keep it in the NFL. Please.
Let's bring back in Adam. Put 2-3 minutes on the clock for him. Time for some silliness.
All right, gentlemen, here's the first one for you. Today it was officially announced and voted on. The new college football playoff will be a 5+7, long rumored and expected and passed today unanimously. So, Eric, I'll start with you. In 5 words or less, describe the new college football playoff format.
Oh.
That's one.
Oh, that's
no, that's
I would say not surprising.
That's 2 words.
There you go.
Still too dependent on bowls. They're still trying to shoehorn these games into there's a round, they've got the round of the hosting of the games on campus, which would be big money makers for the colleges. We still got to figure out how to work in all these bowl games that are awkward fits. I hope they move away from that. Keep the bowl games for, the 6-6 teams. But when we get to these important round games, do home matchups on the campuses.
I'll say Big 12 at large, too. That helps by just going with 5 automatics for the Big 12.
All right, next one, Trace. We'll start with you. It was noted by a good friend of ours, Emptiness, a.k.a. Michael, who you can find on the SunsUCF.com, writing baseball articles for us. He asked, Parker Boudreaux, formerly a UCF offensive lineman, has had a great wrestling career. He left out Cal Bloom, who's also had an okay wrestling career. So Michael wants to know, which current UCF football player do you think could have a good wrestling career, Trace? We'll start with you.
Can I name Mitch McCarthy just because he amuses me in everything he does as the punter? I don't think he's got the physical prowess to be a wrestler, but I think he'd have a character, and I think that's part of the game. But Elo's the bigger wrestling aficionado. So, Elo, who you got?
I think McCarthy makes sense. They're going to be doing a pay-per-view in Australia. Grayson Waller. I mean, he could do the Waller effect. Could be the McCarthy effect. Host a show with both you and Adam on the show. Right.
Disappointed no one said the correct answer, which is Paul Rubelt would be the perfect pro wrestler out there. All right, next one for you, gentlemen. Eric, I'll start with you. This is kind of near and dear to your heart. A lot of national media today and yesterday killing the NBA for their All-Star game, which a lot of people were turned off by. So, Eric, start with you. Fix the NBA All-Star game. How do you do it?
You fix it by getting rid of it. It's not helpful. It's done. Nobody cares about the game. It's an exhibition. It's like a bowl game. It's not fixable, my friend. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I did not watch it, and I think other than baseball's All-Star game, there's just not a lot of juice in the NHL, the NFL. Adam, you were, at that, All-Star. What is it? Pro Bowl game, and what was it? Two-hand tag and
Flag
touch football.
Flag. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I think they've seen their day. I think it's time to get rid of them.
All of them. So NBA, Pro Bowl, NHL, all of it's got to go away.
I would hang on to the Major League Baseball All-Star game.
Are you up for the potential of winner of the game gets home court, home field, home ice?
No. We saw with that. We saw that. The last thing I want is an Orlando Magic player deciding who's got home court in the NBA Finals. Come on.
That's also fair. All right, last one, Tress. I'll start with you. For those who don't know, the Sons of UCF group, there's a lot of us who are trying to hit a milestone of running 350 miles in the calendar year of 2024. So, Trace, I'll start with you. I have a question for you. Does running on a treadmill count as running, or should running only take place in an outdoor setting, Trace? Do you count treadmill miles as actual miles?
I would count treadmill miles. Sometimes it's time. If you're getting that time in, we had the very soggy weekend across the state of Florida. And if you spend some time on the treadmill, you deserve credit for that.
No, you don't get credit. No, you don't get credit for that because we don't. What kind of speed are you using the treadmill? Is it slow? Is it medium speed? Who's keeping track? Who's going to monitor that? No, you go outside and earn it like everybody else does. Yeah, then in the Olympics when they do the marathon, they're not like going on a treadmill for a block. No, you do the whole deal. Come on, be better.
Adam, you're talking to two people in the Sons of UCF universe that are probably not participating in this show.
No, anytime.
Treadmills or otherwise.
Also, canceling that Nordic Track sponsorship for Eric Lopez.
Thank you, Adam, for that. We'll check back with you in a few. ELO men's basketball on a skid. Hey, they were just at 4-5 at the break, and now a 4-game losing streak, losing to West Virginia midweek. Wheels are coming off the Johnny Dawkins bus.
Not good, Trace. Not good. Another bad start in the game. Kind of what's been a pattern. Cincinnati, we got off to a bad start. You fell behind by double digits. You make a comeback. But, boy, you just wonder, has this team teams have figured it out. More and more teams are exposing their defense, going pick and roll against them. And you look at UCF defensively, how many points they've given up and during this losing streak is alarming. I think teams have done some research there to kind of make their bigs play outside the rim. Look, this conference is brutal, and I'm worried that sooner or later this league was going to get you. And right now UCF's getting beat up by this league, kind of like we saw with volleyball in the fall. Eventually, it takes its toll, and I'm worried that this team is taking its toll of this gauntlet of a schedule that no UCF basketball team has ever played a schedule this consecutive many games as with quality like this team is in the Big 12.
Darius Johnson with 29 against West Virginia, but you said to me early on, Jalen Sellers looked off in this game, finishes with 6. It's always something, though, for this Knights team, right? 1 of 7 from the free throw line one game, or they give up 46 free throw attempts to BYU, and another game. This game, 9 of 38 from 3. If you're going to chuck it up that many times, you got to make it more than 9 times when you lose by 10 points.
West Virginia kind of dared them to shoot the 3, playing some zone. The other thing that's been disturbing, they've been getting out-rebounded. They were at Cincinnati, dominated them in the boards. I wrote about that on blackandgoldbannery.com. They've been starting to get, that was a strength early in the year. It has not been recently. You mentioned the Sellers point. They need Johnson and Sellers both to click offensively. But I can't really blame the offense that much, Trace. What's happened to the defense? They're giving up a ton of points. Once again, over 70 points. You've had Ben on the live show, right? Remember when I used to say 70 was the magic number? That is not the case anymore. That's not been the case the last 3 during this losing streak.
Yeah, defense is letting them down, and it may go back to what you're saying, that they're just wearing down. Rarely are you getting these games where both Jalen and Darius are on at the same time, right? And how many games where do you have a third guy steps up and is part of the offensive juggernaut, right? So they're struggling offensively at times. The slow starts, it continues to plague them, and it does not. We say it every week. Does not get any easier. You've got Texas Tech coming up. You've got Iowa State coming to town. They haven't been able to protect the home court, and they only have the one conference road win at Texas. So if you're not going to clamp down at home and win all those games, you got to pick some up on the road. And West Virginia was a prime opportunity for that.
Yeah, but Morgantown's a tough place to play. I think so to me, the tougher loss was the Cincinnati game because you're at home. You got to win at home in this league. It's brutal to win on the road in this league. That's the one that hurts because you had chances there and you didn't execute down the stretch. And I think it begs to ask this question now, Trace. This was such a fun season to this point. The great win over Kansas at home certainly will never be forgotten. The win at Texas that you mentioned. But has this team peaked now? Have we seen the best of UCF basketball this year?
It's starting to feel like it. And I did not think that when they were 4-5 and Johnny Dawkins celebrated his 300th career win. I knew there were hard games left on the schedule, but you mentioned Cincinnati. I thought that would be a win. Obviously, I picked them to win in our draft at West Virginia. That, on paper, you're going against the worst team in the league. They've got the game coming up at Oklahoma State. There's some opportunities left on the schedule to win, escape the basement. But now at 4-9, they'd have to roll the table to get to 9-9. That's not going to happen. Can they get to 6 wins? Are there 2 wins left on this schedule? And will we see them at home at all?
The problem is, when we thought before the season, we thought, well, maybe the back door of the schedule would let up a little bit. Nope. Texas Tech's having a great year. They're top 25. Iowa State's competing for a Big 12 title. They're going to be a high seed in the NCAA tournament. You still got to play Houston, who's in the mix to win the Big 12 title. That's 3 ranked teams, Trace. Oh my God. I want to be it's to the point where I'm going to be in a fetal position watching these games here. I mean, it's tough. It's tough, but we can't be shocked, are we, Trace? Come on. Before the Big 12, we thought they would struggle to get 4 wins. The fact we're even in this conversation is remarkable, but unfortunately, I do think reality is catching up with them in this Big 12. I don't think this is a sign of something negative as overall. This is just a Big 12 beating up this, maybe taking its toll.
Yeah, you're exactly right on that. But the expectations changed when they got some wins, right?
Why though? Why does it always change on basketball? Who are we to change that? We warned everybody. Every game, you got to go one game at a time. We'll see. Hopefully, they got a home game with Texas Tech. That could be. I'm really interested to see what the crowds will be like for that one. I don't think tell the story.
Well, that's not going to be a prop bet, right? Because that one still irks me. That crowd one, where it was you nearly got it right, but I was slightly off on it. But the one that really sticks at me now in our prop bets is the Jameel Reynolds averaging 5.4 points per game. The former Knight. You go with the over. I go with the under. He's at 4. He hits 2 free throws to get to 6. He finishes with 6. That one, that
Once
one.
A night, always a night, Trace. Once a night, always a night.
And then you took the over 60 points. You were wise to suggest that the defense is leaking a little bit in the second half of the season. So you now take a 7-6 lead over me in the prop bets, Elo. So kudos to you on that one. Now, we've got another one with Texas Tech. The over-under total of 135 points. Defense is going to come alive. They are going to avenge that loss in Lubbock. I'm going to go with the under 135, Elo.
I hope you're right from a UCF standpoint, but until I see something different, baby, go over. We're going over.
Well, you have the 7-6 lead, and kudos to you for suggesting that we mix it up, and we've got a prop coming up later in baseball. I know we're moving on to the draft. I updated my draft sheet.
Thanks a lot, Trace. Yeah, I was hoping you get this right. What happened here, Trace? What happened to your pick?
I got a big X on West Virginia. I'm done, Elo. I'm out. I'm out of games. I'm 1-2 with the win over West Virginia at home, the loss at West Virginia, the loss at Cincinnati. You got one game left. You're 0-2.
Yeah, I lost the
You've got
Cincinnati
the,
game. Yeah.
You've got Iowa State. You got them beating Iowa
good.
State.
Not good. Hey, is Adam ever going to play? Looks like Adam might actually play this soon.
Adam has games with, he's got the win, Texas Tech, at Oklahoma State, and at TCU. So waiting.
Sure, Adam feels real confident right
game.
now. He feels real confident right now.
So that's our wrap up on basketball. Hey, we mentioned rain, dashing things, baseball, softball. I got to ask you, you were out at the Clearwater tournament with UCF softball. They lose a game 2-1, and then they win a game 21-9, a football score. How does that happen in 2 games?
Well, we obviously changed offensive coordinators in between games. We moved Darren Hinshaw away. No, look, they changed the lineup a little bit. Jada Cody led off with a home run, 21 runs. You realize the last time UCF scored 20 runs in a softball game was 2003? That was like UCF was an independent. Ryan Schneider, I think, was getting ready to start the season for the Knights that year. That was in the MAC, actually. That was in the MAC years. 25 hits, program record. You hope that this is a sign of things to come with this offense, which I've been waiting for them to click a little bit and explode. Well, they did that against Wisconsin, outscored them 13-1 in that stretch run. Much needed split, disappointing loss to Carolina. As you mentioned, real good pitchers, though. No timely hitting. Knights had bases loaded, 1 out in the 6th, didn't score. That haunt them. That's a big win, but boy, it's going to get a lot harder now as well because it's going to go to California. I know people are asking, well, they lost 3 games. Why aren't they making this up now? Well, because they got 6 games this week in California, 4 of them against top 20.
When were they going to make games going out there? I imagine Cindy Ball Malone scheduled Clearwater to get her team ready for California and then lost those games. So they aren't as battle tested heading into California as they had hoped.
No, and you got Missouri's in the top 10, depending where you look in the polls. Tennessee's top 5. You got Oregon is very good, top 25. Mississippi State's top 25. This is a gauntlet for UCF. We're going to learn a lot about this group, and they're going to learn on the fly. They got to get consistent pitching from pitchers not named Sarah Willis. Maybe that's Caitlin Felton. She's 3-0 in the season. But they did, and their offense has to hopefully continue this momentum that they built against Wisconsin to have a successful West Coast trip, Trace. I know you always ask me, what's the win lot? If they can go 500 in the West Coast with that and get a couple of those wins against top 25 teams, it's a big success, in my opinion, on this West Coast trip. But boy, we're going to learn a lot about this week.
Real quick through baseball, because, hey, there's only one game to talk about, Elo.
And you were there. Hey, you were there. I was not. I was in Clearwater while this game, slugfest, was going on. Baseball won 12-11 on Friday. They were down 8-7, but we don't need to break that up. That's a no contest. Mother Nature had other ideas. What's your takeaway from baseball? 1 game in, they're going to play at Miami, then host Sanford next week.
I don't know. The weather was the story. Certainly the pitching did not look strong. I take nothing away from it. Hey, it's not Siena. Bryant is better than Siena. No disrespect to Siena, but that's a better caliber of team. Too soon to say, but it does give us our prop bet, Elo, our second prop bet of the week.
Well, use 33 over/under runs scored for UCF in the Sanford series. 3-game series. We're assuming 3 games get played.
Each team, or just the one?
No, just UCF. We don't even know what number we could put up there. You 33 runs, Trace. I'm going to go under.
Give me the over, Elo. The over. UCF is going to score a lot of runs. I feel pretty good about their offense. They scored them in bunches. They had big innings. Pitching, I'm not sure about after 1 game. But you want
to know who is the national? You know who the national pitcher of the week was in college?
A guy named Cam Leiter.
I've heard of him. You've seen
13 Ks.
That was pretty good. We could use him.
So you with the under?
Yeah, I'm going to go under. I don't know why. You can't. I think they'll get. They're not going to score double digits every game. Humanly, they're going to cool off at some point.
All right, time to bring back in Adam for some information, corrections. What did we get right? What did we get wrong, Adam?
All right. I spent way too much time trying to get in hold of the Coaches podcast here. I don't know who Coach is. There's 3 hosts of that show, Jeff, Brent, and Bay.
Trace hates that. Trace hates having 3 or more people on a show.
As do most of us. I don't know which one is Coach. You can follow them at Coach's Pod on YouTube. And previous episodes have included Eli Drinkowitz and Sam Pittman. So Gus Malzahn, not the only coach there. Eric, you asked who Gus's agent is. I'm surprised you don't know this. It's the one and only Jimmy Sexton is Gus Malzahn's agent. So keep that in the back of your pockets. You guys were talking Black Friday. I checked on a little website called the Black and Gold Banneret, Eric, and I found an article from 2017 written by one Eric Lopez that said the highest rated Black Friday game for UCF was the 2017 game against the Cows. 4.7 million viewers, a 3.2 rating. Trace, you asked about Utah and Florida. That got 3.2 million viewers as an opening game 2 seasons ago. So you see the stats there. Listen, Salt Lake around Thanksgiving sounds beautiful. Check out these options. You can actually walk around the life-size village of gingerbread houses, which opens the day after Thanksgiving. And according to this website here I found, you can also check out a live burlesque show. So plenty of options available for you in the greater Salt Lake City area, should you find yourself there around Thanksgiving. And you talked about men's basketball and rebounding. Ibrahima Diallo, the leading rebounder on the team, 6 rebounds a game. The previous 5 games, gentlemen, 44 rebounds collected. The last 5 games, of which he did miss one, only 16 rebounds collected. So certainly you can see how the rebounding advantage has swung, not in the favor of UCF.
Good intel there, Adam. Thank you. One more thing before we go. Bark at the Park Sunday for UCF baseball, appropriately against the Samford Bulldogs, ELO. Doggy giveaways, prizes, and more. Hopefully the Knights don't go to the Dogs and can get that series win against Samford. Look for new episodes midweek, every week on the Sons of UCF YouTube channel. Drops in the audio feed as well. We thank Adam. For Eric Lopez, I'm Trylko. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for Around the Kingdom.